Distinguished delegates, let's resume our seats and we continue with the program. Time is not on our side. And for reminder, still the chair of the session is the Minister of Foreign Affairs, General J.J. Odong Mbaka. Dear members, distinguished delegates, let's take up our seats and we will follow up with the program. And we should keenly listen, and those with the reports have a critical look at, so that we do a lot of contribution during the plenary. Chair of session, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back from the break. And indeed, as our Master of Ceremonies has indicated, time is not on our side. So we will delve into the second session right away. And maybe before we do that, let me also inform you that I'm going to be a little bit selfish. I'm not going to leave this chair until we end this meeting. So I will continue. And we will abridge session 2 and session 3 into one, because we plan to be done by about 1 o'clock. And so we begin our proceedings now by receiving a report on the annual performance, and it will be presented by the chairperson of the steering committee. I believe the chairperson is the Permanent Secretary Officer of the Presidency, Ambassador Yunus Kakande Al-Haji. Welcome indeed. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, General J.J. Odong Abubakar, and the representative of the Environment Minister, partners, and Honorable Kafuzi, the Minister of State, Minister of Justice, who is also here. At this juncture is the time for producing our annual performance report for the financial year 2023-2024. Mr. Chairperson, I want you to allow me to invite the Deputy Secretary of our Secretariat Governance and Security, Canon Wairugala, to come and present this paper before. Canon Wairugala, please come and take over. I thank you.
Thank you, PS. Honorable Chair, allow me to adopt the protocol as ably laid earlier by previous speakers in the interest of time. Just to add that my name is Canon Wairagala. Changed a little bit. PS, it's no longer Wairugala, but Wairagala. Sam is my name. I'm the Deputy Head of the Secretariat, standing in for the Senior Technical Advisor, Madam Rachel Doi-Musoke, who is in Brazil on national duty, attending a UN meeting on transnational organized crime and representing Uganda. Chair, permit me to add that we have a copy of the report. I just want to request members of the Secretariat to share the report. My responsibility, Chair, will be to just provide highlights of the report because it's a 200-page report and I cannot present each and every detail. In our report, Chair, we have the program objectives and vision clearly highlighted and every presented earlier on by the Chair of the Steering Committee. We highlight the deliverables as we have targeted under the NDP3 period, and we highlight performance against outcomes for the financial year 2023-2024, as well as our financial performance and key performance issues and measures for their mitigation. I will not go again in elaborating the program objectives. Chair, this is the information that we believe everybody is aware of, but suffice to add that we are focusing on security, we are focusing on policy, we are focusing on justice, law and order services, the Bill of Rights, aspects of accountability and transparency, democracy and ensuring citizen participation, refugee protection, and promoting Uganda's interests at the regional and international levels, and making Uganda the most favorable destination, whether for investment, for tourism, and others, a place better for everybody to live in. We've been tracking, Chair, and our NDP deliverables, our democratic index, which measures how well we are performing. It is measured on a scale of 0 to 10. At the baseline, we were at 6.5, and this year we had targeted that we would grow to 7.3 out of 10. But because we did not have major election processes, we are measured based on participation and other processes. But this year was not an election year. And though we have been judged to perform at 4.6 out of 10, we noticed that this was only based on by-elections, where not every Ugandan participates. Honorable Chair, we made a commitment to improve our credentials in as far as the fight against corruption is concerned. And this is measured by Transparency International. And we targeted to perform at 31.6%. We've been assessed at 26%, which is the same level of performance as at the baseline. We believe, Chair, working together, and light of the commitments we have made, that it's possible for us to change this progression and be able to achieve our targets if we invest in the major aspects related to the fight against corruption, including strengthening systems and institutions and ensuring that we have requisite frameworks to fight this particular vice. And this, I believe, Chair, today is something that government is expounding on, since we are having an International Corruption Day commemoration today, and these are commitments that we believe we'll be able to address. We continue to invest in research and development. Though we are far less than our target, we believe that there is movement in the right direction. In terms of satisfaction with the justice, law and order services, Chair, we've improved from 59% to now 69%, partly because of increased coordination, increased geographical reach, strengthened processes and systems, including the use of scientific approaches in the fight and in the provision of services. We notice a decline in the perception of citizens' participation in electoral processes from 80% at baseline to 59.4%, and also partly because of the fact that these were not election years. And as far as efficiency and effectiveness of institutions in delivery of services, we've seen an improvement in turnaround time in most of the institutions. It takes you, Chair, about 4 hours to incorporate a company in Uganda, compared to 8 days in 2016-17. We can be able to process a passport in 5 days from 14 days. And generally, on average, in terms of performance, most of our services can generally be obtained within 3 days on average, from 4 days in the previous year. We continue to invest in equipment and also in strengthening training of personnel within the security sector, and our level of combat readiness remains high. And similarly, we have an assessment score and level of compliance by security agencies in planning and budgeting at 100%. Chair, in terms of responding to emergencies, including likes of Bududa, landslides, Ramburi, and others, we can now do it within 25 minutes. Our aim is to make sure that this is reduced to under 20 minutes. The challenge here, Chair, has been the issues around planning, especially in the city and other places where we do not have dedicated lines for some of these emergency and rescue services. We believe, Chair, with KCCA as part of the governance and security program and all other cities, we can be able to improve this score moving forward. Under increased peace and stability, we maintain a high peace index and a high level of public confidence in the security system, which stands at 90%, based on studies and the surveys that have been done. We have been able to suppress armed and organized criminal groups. What remains, Chair, those that are using technology. We do have issues around cybercrime. I don't need to overemphasize this. And with improved skills and targeting, we'll be able to overcome this one as well. We still maintain a high level of response to emerging security threats. And this, notwithstanding the fluid situation with the neighboring countries. We believe that moving forward, we'll be able to commence in earnest the National Service Program, having started with the low-hanging fruits, including having patriotism classes in primary and post-primary schools, and we believe that this is the beginning program for us to strengthen Ugandans in the love for their country. We continue to train more staff. We continue to improve welfare of officers and men, both in the UPDF, police force, and the prison service. And in the reporting period, over 1,453 housing units have been constructed. Chair, our chief guest talked about the renewal of national ID, and the systems, hardware systems are now in place. What is left is rolling out these other processes so that we can be able to start mass renewal of national IDs. We continue to strengthen border controls and security, and strengthen build of our institutions and duty bearers responsible in this particular process. The chair talked about reduced crime, which continues to reduce from 524 in 2022 to 476 in 2023 for every 100,000 people. This, notwithstanding that we still have one of the worst police population ratios in the region. Ours is 950 policemen for every 500, and yet internationally recommended is 500 for 500 policemen for every 100,000 of the population. We believe, Chair, that we continue to fight, especially crime committed using small and light weapons through fingerprinting of guns and ensuring that we have accountability. And currently, we are also strengthening the use of scientific evidence across board with the construction ongoing of a national DNA data bank. But importantly is the current piloting of the integrated transport monitoring system, which is meant to ensure that we deal with crimes that are committed using vehicles and related equipment. And we believe that once it is rolled out in the private sector, it was started with the public sector. Hopefully, it will serve two purposes. It will serve the purpose of fighting crime, but also serve the purpose of misuse of government vehicles, because we will be able to know where it is and for what purpose it is being used. In terms of policy and the legislative processes, Chair, we focus on supporting the enactment of laws, increasing the use of regulatory best practice, and ensuring that we act on cabinet decisions. These are gray areas because we performed less than the target within the reporting period, and these are aspects that we believe we need to improve through program coordination and collaboration, because many of the laws that are being drafted come from other programs, and so the more we relate with all the other programs, the better for us in coordinating this particular function. We continue to promote economic stability and ensure that we have a harmonized ES regional monetary policy framework, which was adopted and is currently under implementation. Chair, one of the aspects that we've been grappling with is that we do not have certainty of the law. The only laws of Uganda were in 2000. And since 2000, we have had laws that had been enacted, and they were scattered in various gazettes and so on. But we want to appreciate the program spearheaded by the Law Reform Commission in ensuring that now we have a clean statute book with all the laws accessible within definite publication. Under the Justice Land Order sub-program, the focus has been on fighting backlog, increasing disposal rate of cases, reducing the rate of reoffending, and strengthening efforts to improve stakeholder satisfaction, as well as geographical reach. And these all are within the targets that have been set, and they've returned satisfactory performance. I want to add that, Chair, we now have constructed and completed 94 one-stop frontline jail service points in the districts. We currently, Chair, focused on ensuring that we have purpose-built offices for our institutions. We avoid a scenario where we have been renting a shop for delivery of services, and people have been having this scenario that in the other shop they sell tea and beans. In the next shop is where they sell national identity cards, because you are just having a small shop for issuance of national IDs. So people sometimes interpret it in that direction. Currently, Chair, the Justice Law and Order institutions are spending 30 billion shillings annually on rent. And this coming year, we believe that this will end because of the ongoing construction of both the police headquarters and the Jailhouse House Office Park, which will house the Ministries of Justice, Ministry of Internal Affairs, the Directorate of Public Prosecutions, Human Rights Commission, and several other institutions and agencies of government. And this means that this resource will be available for use and dealing with the aspects related to delivery of services and for operations. We believe that with purpose-built infrastructure, we'll be able to improve on public satisfaction in the services we offer. Other ongoing constructions include the IG towers, the DNA data bank, as well as other regional offices for institutions such as Ministry of Justice, DCIC, Human Rights Commission, among others. Chair, what we are also working on is strengthening offender rehabilitation and reintegration across board. One interesting development, Chair, is that as a result of our, we can even call it Juakali rehabilitation programs, we have been able to maintain a very low reoffending rate, 13.4%. One of the lowest rates of reoffending in the world, and I think the highest in Africa. The only challenge is that this current rehabilitation program is only for particular types of offenders. It will be difficult for us to use the same carpentry, farming, and others to deal with persons that have committed white-collar crimes and others where you need different programming. This is also made worse, Chair, by the high rates of congestion and low numbers of staff within these institutions. In the fight against corruption, Chair, we highlight the increasing performance in as far as investigation and strengthening the duty bearers, which have turned a very high conviction rate of 89% for the cases that have been prosecuted by the Office of the DPP. Chair, we celebrate that now we are off that grey list, and we don't want to come with on any list by the Financial Action Task Force. We were on the grey list. From the grey list, you go to the black one. And since they never talk about the white list, we want to remain on the white list forever. And this, we would want to appreciate the institutions, including the Financial Intelligence Authority and other supporting institutions that have enabled Uganda come off this grey list. We continue to strengthen audit and increase the assessment of the national anti-corruption strategy, which are all aimed at addressing issues around corruption. Chair, next year, 2025-2026, is the election year. And we believe, Chair, that it is going to be a major activity. We need to improve and strengthen registration processes. We need to ensure that only those that are supposed to vote are captured in the voters' register. And interestingly, we need to make sure that we implement fully the general elections roadmap, which was launched 3 years ago. We continue to support multi-party democracy through facilitating the National Consultative Forum. And we believe that we need to continue and entrench voter education and strengthen research and continuous learning in the institutions that are responsible for ensuring that citizens participate in democratic processes. One of our biggest challenges has been late start of voter education, which leads to a number of challenges, including high numbers of spoiled votes, electoral violence, and related aspects. We're currently constructing the regional and district electoral commission offices, and the construction of the EC headquarters and such facility is starting this financial year, and we believe this will provide the much needed space. Under compliance with the Bill of Rights, we have increased the proportion of human rights recommendations that have been implemented from 19% to 50%, though we fell short of the 60% target. Under disposal of human rights cases, we've been able to grow from 4.3% to 12.3%, but still remains lower than our baseline in 2021-2022 of 21.5. We've been able, Chair, to reduce the percentage of persons that are waiting for trial within our system from 52.2% in 2021-2022 to now 46.8% by October 2024. The figure you have in the report of 47.3% was as at June 2024, but as I speak now, we are at 46.8%. We are able to say this, Chair, because Uganda Prison Service in this country, I think, has the best data collection and reporting system. And this is something that we believe that all other institutions should emulate and ensure that is done. We continue to strengthen human rights compliance and also deal with the issue of ensuring that we adhere to the provisions within the Constitution, including the 48-hour rule, and discussions are ongoing to see how we can improve and make this one better. And we realize that one of the biggest challenges in addressing the 48-hour rule is because we do not have reliable data that is collected and is available for decision makers to implement. We believe that as a program, we need to support institutions, including the prisons. Has a capacity of 21,000 inmates. Currently, they holding a population of almost 80,000. So in a space meant for one person, we have 4 people. So I just want to encourage all of you who are in this room that let's try to be on the right side of the law so that we do not add to the congestion in our system. Chair, in terms of refugee protection, in the reporting period, we had 1.7 million persons displaced from their own countries, including 1.6 million being refugees, and 45 of these ones people seeking asylum. Majority of the refugees are from Southern Sudan, constituting 56%, the DRC 31%, and then the rest come from other countries. We've been working with the Office of the Prime Minister to ensure that we repatriate. We also work with other governments and the countries to resettle some of these, because we also have limited resource and limited space, and we need to share the challenge and the burden. And we've been able to put up projects that support refugees, but the resources remain a challenge, including dwindling support. In the area of security, I think everybody believes that Uganda, and rightfully so, that we are a peaceful country. And wonder that today, everybody wants to come here. I want to congratulate you, Chair, and the government of Uganda upon a successful hosting of the Non-Aligned Movement Summit, as well as the South Summit the G77 plus China, which gave us not only responsibility, but an ability to market Uganda as not only a destination for summits and whatever, but also as a place where we can do investment and we can also perform better. The responsibilities we have, we are now the chair of NAM for the period 2024 to 2027, and for the G77 plus China, 2024. But it comes with a lot of issues which we need to implement, and we need to make sure that they are captured within our systems and processes. Chair, we cannot do this without money. And Chair, in the report we highlight how much was approved for us, how much was given, how much we have been able to spend. We want to thank Minister of Finance this year. In 2023-2024, they had our prayer. After approval of the budget of 7.4 trillion, we were able to place before them the unique demands, including contractual obligations and other challenges, and they gave us 8.5, which we fully utilized, because 98.9 is the same almost as 100%. What we were not able to spend fully was because it also came late. Some of the resources were released to the institutions on the 25th of June. They're supposed to be able to spend by the 28th of June, because the IFMIS was closed on the 28th. So you get the money on the 25th, and you must spend it within 3 days. And this is where they had challenge. We highlight performance of each of the institutions in terms of monies, but also we highlight some of the key performance issues. These are highlighted in the report. We always have a challenge of late enactment and amendment of laws, commercialization of politics and electoral violence, which bring up particular aspects, the lack of national civic education policy, and the lack of other processes, including timely and adequate release of funds, issues that affected our performance, and we will continue to update us if it is not done. The refugee population, we have not had a scenario where it is going down, it continuously goes up. The security situation is in the neighboring countries, notwithstanding, we have a problem. The numbers are bringing a constraint on resources, and especially with the host communities. We still have a problem of inadequate skills to handle the levels of complicity, especially in dealing with anti-corruption and other aspects. Chair, we can now effectively deal with money, physical money, dollars, shillings, kwacha, and so on. Now there is a new currency called cryptocurrency. It does not use zeros and ones. It uses particular aspects. It becomes very difficult, Chair, for us to deal with the issues, criminality and others involving such currency. The slow pace in implementation of the East African Community commitments, and also lack of resources to deal with international commitments, including paying the necessary subscriptions, is an issue. We don't have the money. Sometimes we take a decision is no procurement of vehicles, but we have not established the baseline. And so we say no procurement of vehicles, and we have a government policy that any government vehicle that has clocked 100,000 kilometers should be boarded off. So we are going to have institutions in this country with no vehicle, and yet we want them to provide the necessary services. We know, but I hope the newspapers are not going to carry this. There are some ministries here where the ministers are actually being transported in vehicles that are owned by agencies such as UNHCR and others, it becomes a challenge. What will happen when the donor says, park my vehicle tomorrow? So we need to address the issue of fleet and addressing issues around delivery of services. The misalignment of institutions, it's not a quarrel, but the judiciary is expanding at a geometric rate. The other institutions like prisons are growing at an arithmetic rate. Chair, you remember that theory of Malthus, Reverend Malthus, on population and resources. That's what is happening. Previously you had 5 state attorneys serving 1 judge. Now today the reverse is happening. The judge must wait for the state attorney, because 1 state attorney is servicing 5 judges. So the boss now is the state attorney. He's the one saying, tomorrow I'm not coming, I'll be in the other place. And it is going to happen also to prisoners. It is going to happen to investigators and others. So we need to be addressing the issue of misalignment. The high cost of utilities, the limited transport facilities to support institutions in coming up and addressing issues. Under security, Chair, the high population growth rate of prisoners is a security matter. You notice that most of our prisons are just open. They are open prisons. You just have to negotiate with the inmates, not to run away. And so we need to address this. Feeding of prisoners, a daily average of 88,000 prisoners. We want to give kudos to the people that are able to keep these people without rioting. This is also made worse by the lack of adequate security equipment and others. The limited ICT coverage of border points. Actually, you can decide to bypass the border point because 1, it is the borders are porous, but 2, you don't have means with which to man the borders. This whole country has only 24 operational borders out of the 67 gazetted border points. So we are performing at only 36%, which is a big issue, and made worse that most of our systems are manual. When somebody comes in, you can even when you give them 2 weeks to go, they can stay for 5 years because you do not have a system of tracking who has overstayed. The delayed implementation of the mass enrollment and renewal of national IDs remains a challenge. It has affected cross-border movement. Ugandans can no longer use the national ID to cross to Kenya and other countries. Here in Uganda, we are saying it is illegal. The ID is still working. But the Kenyans do not read our policies. They look at the document you are carrying. And once it is expired, they'll tell you it is expired. You will come back when you have renewed. So what we are having previously as people, free movement of people across borders is no longer working out because we still have this challenge. Only 26% of our policemen, entitled policemen, have an institutionally provided accommodation. And what we are now left with is chaos in the barracks. And even when you have an OC station, you cannot enforce policies and procedures in a manyatta that was built by me. It is mine, and so you cannot tell me that I should either improve on it or do something. So we need to do the same. We have ongoing projects to improve this, including prefabricated accommodation, but we require resources to be able to address. The president has demanded that we should have a sub-county policing model as a minimum with 18 policemen. Police has been very fast in setting up this. Physically, they are there. Physically, you have the police posts in every sub-county in this country. But in some of them, they are manned, you have one policeman and 2 SPCs. And so which means that that kind of police post is manned by 1 policeman and some civilians, which is something that we need to deal with. And also aware that we are going through elections, we need to buttress the system. Chair, we are the only program where we eat this year, and the next year they tell us that we shall not eat. We have a provision for feeding of UPDF this financial year. Next financial year, we have been told that resource is not available. So we are going to tell the UPDF to eat in anticipation that next year they will not have. So you have, I don't know whether how practical that is, but we have a challenge. We have ISO headquarters, just a stone throw away from here, and surrounding it are high-rise buildings. So I don't know who is ISO, because ISO, there are other ISOs above, because they are able to see exactly what is happening within the headquarters of ISO, and this is a national security installation. We need to make sure that we move away from places where we are disadvantaged to make sure that we address issues of our security as a country, including the limited capacity and capability to handle some of other cases that we have, including health and others. The ever-changing security environment and the new security threats like cybercrime remain an issue that we have to deal with. We're dealing with the issues of transnational and organized crime, which hinder maintenance, management, and coordination of intelligence, both in foreign fields and stations, and require high expenditure cross-board. Chair, this is not a day for lamentations, but for us to share what we have been able to perform and look at how we can mitigate the other challenges. How do we strengthen our processes, and then look at delivery of the program in the last year of the National Development Plan 3. Chair, that is the annual report. I thank you.
Thank you very much for that very detailed analysis of our report and performance. And I think it should only be fair that our partners should make a comment on how they see how we have performed. And so I would like now to invite Ms. Biat to make a comment on our annual performance report. Most welcome.
Chair, Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, please allow me to stand on the protocols observed, also for the sake of time. It is my pleasure. First, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Beate Faukoje. I'm the Deputy Head of Office of the Austrian Embassy Development Corporation. And I stand here today on behalf of the Justice Sector Development Partners Group. And together with my colleagues from the Justice Development Partners, we have taken the time with the few days we got to review the report, and we would like to appreciate the progress made and also deliver our comments. The Justice Sector Development Partner Group has a broad membership of UN institutions as well as embassies, the EU delegation, the Royal Danish Embassy, Embassy of Sweden, Embassy of Netherlands, GIZ, IDLO, the Office of the Resident Coordinator, UNDP, UNHCR, UNFPA, UN Women, UNODC, UNICEF, and USAID, in addition to Austria. It is our role to strengthen the rule of law and access to justice, and to establish the collaboration and coordination within us as a program, but as well as with the government entities and you as our partners. We do that through engagements, discussions, and monitoring visits. So, I would like to appreciate the presentation made by all my predecessors talking here today, and re-emphasize that also for us as development partners, the development of Uganda is at our hearts. And so I make these comments in good faith of the mentioning potentially critical points that we make them in order to promote progress and advancement in the country and for advanced security and rule of law. Yeah, still, we really appreciate the achievements made, both in terms of the national security, which is being maintained through a well-structured and coordinated security apparatus, that also Uganda is a beacon of stability and peace in a volatile region. And I think the achievement, which has been mentioned a number of times today already, is the removal from the Financial Action Task Force grey list, which gives room for financial investments in the country and growth. We also appreciate the legal and institutional reforms which have been made to strengthen democratic governance, rule of law, and human rights, and also that the public trust in the justice system remains high. And I think many countries look into Uganda as the best model practice for the protection of the 1.7 refugees in the country, and for also as a model for the progressive policies. We observed in the review of the report that a lot of strides have been made in terms also of analysis, and that it provides a comprehensive account of the activities, and we look forward to also the recommendations which we are given. What we would appreciate to see more also is disaggregation of data beyond gender, also in regards to maybe disability inclusion, age when it comes to children. These would be aspects we would appreciate going forward, as well as to maybe look more into learning from best practices and what can be taken up in the future. Now, looking into the different outcome areas in regard to the security agencies and their capacity to address prevailing and emerging security threats. We observe that there's a clear track record of a stable and peaceful Uganda, maintained by the security agencies and MDAs. There's the reduced crime rate, which has been mentioned already a number of times, which is attributed to the professional and disciplined security forces, to the use of CCTV and community policing. We were a bit interested to learn also more on the way forward in regard to CCTV. We understand it's a very useful tool, effective for theft, robbery, accidents, and motorists in contact with crime, but we were also looking into the role in terms of preventive measures, and also in regard to how it could be expanded. In regard to community policing, we found it interesting that there was not much more elaboration on how this measure is actually happening, and we would be interested in learning more. Capacity building for security forces included staff trainings, professional development, specialized command and leadership courses, which we really appreciate, also in regard to minerals-related crime, financial investigation, financial due diligence, also as I had mentioned in regard to the cyber crimes. In regard to trafficking of persons, we realized that there is a decline reported to 1,006 persons who had been trafficked. Measures taken by awareness raising in communities for the police. We had some questions in regard also the number of people actually trafficked. We were not sure, or we felt that this number might be underreported, or maybe we are only in the report, we are only talking at foreign nationals, while we also think human trafficking is an issue among Ugandans. Yeah. And another aspect we also were looking at in this context was the types of why people are being trafficked, since there is also the risk of trafficking for sexual exploitation abuse. As has already been mentioned a number of times, Chair, is the progress on identification and registration of person services, with over 70 million of persons with national identity numbers and with national IDs, and also the registration of births was beyond target. However, and that is probably really a special case for me, for coming from a Western European country where every child, once you're born in the, more or less almost in the hospital, you get your birth certificate. But there are children who there's quite a number of children every year who doesn't get a birth certificate, which is kind of a stepping stone moving forward in all registrations and processes. Yeah, in regard to registration, monitoring, and regulation of NGOs, we have noted that currently there are 5,155 NGOs registered in the National NGO Register, and that district NGO monitoring committees were being operationalized, and there's also a plan to have for automation for the NGO Bureau, and also awareness raising about the NGO regulatory framework, which we find really important, since we many times also get aware or are called upon NGOs who may not know the regulations and then feel it is hard for them to comply. And many times I think this could also be a knowledge gap or a gap in access. In regard to policy, legal, and regulatory institutional frameworks, there has been a number of law revisions and also incorporation of East African laws, East African community laws. What is pending, which we have noticed, is the electoral reforms. I think we have also mentioned that already today. Then the legal aid bill has not been enacted, as well as the transitional justice bill. We appreciate translations and publishing activities undertaken to promote the knowledge of laws and accessibility. In regard to people-centered delivery of security, justice, law and order services, which is many times our main area of discussion, yeah, we have noted down that the efforts and also the strides being made to uphold and strengthen public trust in the justice system through the 94 one-stop JLOS frontline service points, which promote the consistency of service delivery. Despite the number of growing cases, also case backlog has remained stable at 27%, even though the numbers of cases has increased by 1/4. The resolution rate of legal problems has increased, and we have noted that the most significant categories of legal issues are family issues, land issues, domestic violence, GBV, and crime. And we also take note of the conviction rate of 73%, and the recidivism rate, which is really low at 13%. Legal aid services, we know there has been service delivery gaps. Nevertheless, there are 43 legal aid clinics run around the country and reaching over 80,000 clients within the past year. And Justice for Children has also been strengthened, and a diversion rate of 77% achieved, which is also remarkable. The Jailers House has been mentioned in regard to infrastructure development, as well as we have noted the construction of housing for staff, which has also been critical to uphold service delivery in the country. In regard to the automation and online business registration system has been enhanced with reliability, which is also a best practice to ensure businesses can be registered quickly online within an hour or a few hours. It increases data accuracy, integrity, as well as other online services by a number of institutions, such as USB, passport issuing, work permits, visa, and so on. In regard to transparency, accountability, and anti-corruption systems, Chair, we also appreciate the corruption perception index stays at 26%, even though our target for the year had been 33%. And as we have noticed also that there's still quite a stride to go, as Uganda is on place 32 of 191 countries. However, through the efforts which have been made, the increased investigation and prosecution of corruption cases, 5 billion Uganda shillings have been recovered in the past year, and also through the audit of the government payroll, 10,000 persons have been struck off the government payment, which also contributes to a number of savings. The anti-corruption court is also has the highest case clearance and the smallest rate of backlog with 21%. What is maybe the most pressing concern, which we have noticed in regard to corruption, is the civic apathy. According to the stats, 80% of the Ugandan public do not do anything to fight corruption. It's an accepted practice, I would say, and therefore it would be important from our point to continue investing in awareness raising and also to increase the number of the currently 2% of Ugandans who engage in monitoring of government projects to ensure more transparency and accountability in regard to service delivery, and as also we development partners provide diverse accountability measures and a citizen feedback platform, we would really appreciate it if citizens also feel empowered to take on the role of holding government accountable and saying no to corruption. The gain in regarding the Financial Action Task Force on money laundering and removal from the grey list has been mentioned a number of times today. I will not go into detail much more. Nevertheless, we have noticed that the threat of tax crimes is high, and also there's a certain amount of domestic tax evasion happening through smuggling of goods and services, weaknesses in tax enforcement, and also weaknesses in the administration of tax evasion penalties. So I guess there's still a number of efforts to go to achieve also strengthened tax adherence to tax policies. All right, Chair. In regarding citizen participation in domestic processes, We have noticed, as has already been mentioned, that the democratic index, Uganda stands at 4.49, which is actually lower than in previous financial years. But as has been mentioned, this is regarding that there are no elections happen, or only by-elections have happened. Nevertheless, as we are going to the next year, activities are ongoing in regards to civic education, election preparation. The electoral roadmap has been mentioned, and there's also still the amendment of electoral laws planned. What is very important for us as development partners, and we really also engage with the institutions on these topics on various occasions, is that the compliance with the constitutional provisions on freedom of assembly, expression, speech, which is particularly under threat when it comes to electoral processes and the general elections upcoming, which with the anticipated heightened civic engagement. In regard to the compliance with the Uganda Bill of Rights, Chair, there's a major achievement of the Uganda Human Rights Commission, which maintained an A rating in accordance with the UN Paris Principles and the Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institutions. This was achieved with 61% of citizens reached on the provisions of the Bill of Rights, with a good proportion of half of the human rights recommendations implemented. The Uganda Human Rights Commission also meditates cases on affecting human rights, even though the disposal rate is only at 12%. And we appreciate also advocacy which is undertaken for minority groups such as the Ik and Batwa, and also capacity building undertaken for staff of companies engaged in labor externalization and local governments to provide human rights violations. Prison congestion has also been mentioned already, with the currently congestion rate at 324%. I did recently actually look into the prison population compared to the overall population. So in Uganda you have 154, I think, prisoners per 100,000 people in the population, and I compared it to some other countries. For example, Austria, it's around 100%, but you have many countries where the prison population per population is a lot higher. So I think there's no way around, and we have already concluded that actually, despite all measures being taken in regards to ADR and non-custodial forms of punishment, construction of prisons to reduce congestion in relation to the population growth is a necessity. We also recommend the continued elimination of the soil bucket system and to ensure a lowering of the remand time and not to delay court processes. Initiatives undertaken to promote human rights include the introduction of UPF disciplinary courts in all districts and the professional standards units of the UPF registered and investigated 326 human rights complaints. Then there are human rights committees established in all the 266 prisons and have gazetted 23 visiting judges. And we also appreciate the integration of a human rights-based approach into policies, regulations, plans, and programs across all MDAs. Chair, I'm almost about to conclude, but I would still also like to point out the activities on the refugee protection and migration management and the implementation of the settlement transformative agenda, which stands at 70%. It is a collaborative effort of the various institutions addressing refugee protection and assistance. We have taken note that additional responsibilities have been taken over by the government of Uganda to take over schools, provision of health services, as well as, for example, the transfer of water systems to NWSC and the Northern Umbrella for Water and Sanitation. In regard to security, we have talked about it already today, that there is the relationship between police officers and prisoners 1 to 800 nationwide. In the settlements, it's 1 to 2,400, with very little also gender or female officers representation, which provides gaps in access to security services. Okay. Finally, to look into the Uganda's interests abroad, these have also already been touched upon today. Uganda is a stability factor in the region, and main achievements which have been made is the chairmanship of the NAM, the G27 plus China, also the Nile Basin Initiative Summit and the African Union Committee of 5 on the situation of Sudan has taken place, as well as Uganda has been part of the AU Peace and Security Council in Jan and May, and is instrumental in leading peace processes in Somalia, South Sudan, DRC, and Burundi. The Global Peace Index has been reduced from 2.3 to 2.477 due to the ongoing regional conflict and spillover effects. So it needs to be continuously monitored, and we cannot relent in our efforts to ensure peace and security in the country, as well as to support peace in our neighboring countries. As I conclude, we appreciate, as Development Partners Chair, our cooperation with the Governance and Security Program, with the 32. We may not be working with all of them, but with the institutions under the program. And we appreciate the Secretariat for all the good work being done, and also to engage in the conversations with the development partners, to appreciate our feedback, and also always to be available to hear our concerns and to address them in a positive and in a respectful way. With that, we want to reiterate our commitment to support the rule of law, security, and access to justice in Uganda through, as you had mentioned today, coordination, collaboration, and communication, not only among us development partners, but also with the government of Uganda and the different institutions. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Beauty, for the response and indeed a critique of the annual report that was presented by the Secretariat earlier on. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, on our initial schedule, it is indicated that by 1 o'clock, the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, who is here represented by the Deputy Attorney General and Deputy Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, is scheduled to be making his closing remarks at 1 o'clock. And on the basis of that, he made other appointments. So we are approaching 1 o'clock, and yet I had hoped that we would get an opportunity for an intervention from you, the audience. So I don't know. I seek your guidance. maybe we can have from each sector one intervention, say for prisons, 3 minutes, police, same, foreign affairs, internal affairs, justice, something like that, so as to be able to try to compress our reactions to enable the minister to be able to make his concluding remarks and also catch up with the appointments he has made on the basis of that.
We have 34 sectors. 34 sectors.
Oof.
Maybe just choose 3.
Mm.
If you have 3 roles,
Mm.
you can get from 1 to
Okay. Okay. I don't know, but I'm told we are about 34 different sectors. 32. And if we had to go sector by sector to make comments, I'm sure we would have to sit here until the cocks come back home. So maybe, I don't know.
Honorable, I would like to advise that a week ago, the same members here had a meeting, and they brought up their guidance and proposals, which the Secretariat noted. And today, the only issue we're waiting for, Honorable Minister, it was from the Howard Bonham Patternant to make comment. And the comments they have made, maybe members here would just want to make contribution to the comment. But to me, I think the comments she has made this afternoon, they are recommendable for this governance and security. So I'm sorry really to take this line that since we had a meeting last week and we looked at these issues, and the comment which I've got from our representative from the development pattern have clearly stated, commenting this governance and security group. I would say that we just give her a thanks, and then our minister give us his brief.
I think that really simplifies my job. So we do not have to haggle who speaks, who doesn't speak. Maybe at this juncture, I will now take the opportunity to invite Permanent Secretary Office of the President, or whoever you wish to designate, to move a vote of thanks for the responses by our development partners.
I would like to request the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Internal Affairs, General Musanyufu, to come, because most of these issues, which we have been deliberating here since morning, almost 80%, 70% rotates on security, and the other part also on access to justice. So, General Musanyufu, you can come here and make your remarks.
Honorable Sir, Chair of this session, General J.J. Odongo, Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Deputy Attorney General, the development partner, representing all the development partners as listed here, the Permanent Secretary Ministry of the Presidency and Chair of our steering committee. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I was given the honor to make a vote of thanks. And on the comments of the development partners. And I think the the permanent secretary was right. A big portion of the comments from our development partners touch on security. And a lot has been covered on the security areas. But I want to say that the development partners do agree with us in the security sector that a lot of strides have been made. We are making progress, while we still remain with some work to be done, because in security, work is never finished. There's always work to do. But I think we have made a number of strides, and we have identified the areas where we need to improve, and we do appreciate our development partners. One, for the support they give us in the work we do, because what has been achieved, we would not have been able to do it on our own. They have taken part, they are part of the success. What remains to be done is ours, and we shall endeavor to do it, to ensure that our purpose is to ensure peace and security for our country, which is a beacon of stability as has been observed, and we shall endeavor to do that. So as governance and security, we appreciate our partners. Thank you for supporting us, and we look forward to greater success in the coming financial year that we are planning for. On that, I move to say, let us give a clap for our development partners for the support they give us. Thank you very much, and I wish us success. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, PS, for that very candid and brief, typical of a soldier. Let me now use this opportunity to invite Honorable Kafuns Jackson, Deputy Attorney General and Deputy Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, to make the closing remarks to this session. Right, welcome, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, General J.J. Odong, and Chair of our session. Our development partners, leaders of different MDAs, everyone present, good afternoon. I know for a fact that every corner of a building must have a pillar to support it. In nation building or in any form of development, there must be pillars, there must be bricks, there must be mortar, there must be cement, there must be supportive instruments to uphold the development. Here with us, we have a number of development partners who time and time again make a contribution to our budget, to our development, to our policy. We sit as partners, we negotiate, we discuss, we agree, we disagree, they contribute, all in the spirit of development. There is no nation that develops without partners supporting it. Development partners may be in form of the kind that we have. Others may be the business community. But what happens at the end of it all is that they put their hands together with those of government to make a contribution towards development. Now, all the MDAs, all the government sectors that take benefit from these development partners here represented. I want to thank you for doing so, but also remind you that we are constantly under scrutiny because our development partners must justify to their people, the taxpayers, the reason as to why they should continue giving us what they do, and that whatever they give to us is put to good use. That's why time and again we must have an evaluatory report such as the one we have launched today. Every year we set goals and plan how to achieve them. And once those goals are set, they make a contribution. We do our part and ultimately prepare a report, which is the reason why we are here, to assess our performance, to launch this report. So this report, I believe, will go beyond this room because our development partners have to carry it to their respective governments to seek justification for more. I do understand that we had a bumpy ride following the passing of the anti-homosexuality law. I'm glad that the door was kept open and we are still talking. We are still working together. Either side may not be happy with what transpired. We have our reasons and they have theirs. We come from different cultural backgrounds. That will be for another day. But I believe that with time, every other thing will be smoothened. We hope to do better. Like those who spoke before me talked about the coming electoral cycle. During every electoral cycle, our development partners do support us. They scrutinize the process. They help us in the build-up towards the election. I hope in the coming year, because you see, when we passed the anti-homosexuality law and they were a bit uncomfortable, they scaled down on the funding. But when you scaled down on the funding, our problems did not cease. Neither did our responsibilities as a country. Well, we are determined to carry on. We still need as much response from you as possible. So come next year, we call upon you to take a step back, rethink your position, and add on to whatever you had scaled down and help us move forward. With that, I want to thank everyone here present. I don't want to talk much. Apparently, I was not the main speaker today, but I'm happy that I've been given the opportunity to say these words. I thank all our development partners, UNICEF, GIZ, UNDP, and all the others. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. With that, I declare today's session closed. Thank you.
Let's put some energy into our hands to the closing remarks of the Deputy Attorney General and Minister of State for Justice and Constitutional Affairs. Thank you, everybody. I request we put our hands together for the chair of this long session from morning to lunch hour, and he kept the vigor of the general. Now we have come to the conclusion. But of course, let's put our hands together to appreciate the development partners. Like the saying goes, good governance is an expectation. It's not an exception. And like Mandela said, do not judge me by my successes, but by how many times I fell down and got up again. So dear partners, we may fall down, but we are ready to get up and walk with you till the end of the journey. We conclude as we started with the anthems. Band, may you raise to the anthems, dear delegates. Could I request the coordinators to guide our delegates for lunch, which has been prepared by the Minister for Presidency and the General Secretariat. Thank you so much for honoring the invitation. And I see Sam is having maybe one or two admin announcements.
Big thank you to our MC, Mr. Baine. Haji, as usual, has a meal for all of us. I hope we have all got a meal coupon. We are going to Royal Hotel. I mean, not hotel, restaurant. We're already in Royal Hotel. Royal Restaurant will be guided by the ushers as we get out. And the other aspects are being handled by the staff on the registration desks. Please make sure that you have a copy of the report because that is part of your alibi for not being in office today. Thank you so much to all of you for coming. We look again to having you on another function like this, and as we plan under the National Development Plan 4. Thank you so much and welcome.